topic probably is a modern age topic, of course. Like usually, we pick up these sort of topics that come in handy for our viewers to understand and take a look at a different perspective. This is what we have always been trying to do, and we'll try to do for the day as well. You can have a look at the topic as well on the screen. That is managing hybrid teams with empathetic approaches. Almost 3 years ago, we've already been discussing it, the pandemic actually made us accelerate our technological advancement as a human species and in business and technological sector by leaps and bounds. Whatever we have right now was meant to be with us by 2035, sometimes even 2040, but the pandemic actually accelerated it. And this is how our species actually works around. We just pave our way through these sort of challenges, and we always come out of these challenges with something new and something that probably was a little far, but it gets a lot closer to us. One of these things is that we realize that we can be in office without even being in office physically. That is basically what we realized. Initially, as a what I would say a measure to keep things running, it was more like a typical human response of survival instinct. But later we realized that this could be a huge blessing. We can cut short on many of the aspects. We can save a lot of time, and we can get connected with anyone at any time to discuss many things. And of course, there were many other solutions that were ensuing in technical context as well. So today we'll be discussing all this because if we are to look at the screens, and if I have to get this feel, and if you, as you're already viewing it, the two individuals in your screen right now, they are not here where you are. Probably we are like hundreds of kilometers away from you, aerial distance, or maybe thousands, of course. But yes, you can hear a skirt, you can look at a skirt, and you can actually understand what we are about to show you or what we are talking about. So let us first welcome again Ma'am Warda Yusuf. Thank you very much, Ma'am, again coming on with a new topic with your insights. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you so much for always being gracious enough to welcome me. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, ma'am. Always a pleasure hosting you. So, talking about the topic, ma'am, it's a vast topic, but we'll be focusing primarily on the behavioral aspect and to an extent a technical aspect as well. How exactly, working, we have all experienced it in the past 3 years, sometimes or all the times. And now, in fact, most of the companies, they have shifted to a hybrid model. They now promoted that people who are working even in other countries, who are actually physically in another country, they are working and rendering services to the companies, offshore companies, of course, and it just feels like that they are part of the company as well. So we have accepted as a species, as a business model, we have accepted this practice that okay, this is our new now, this is the new now that we envisioned probably decades later, but it just came rushing to us, and this is the reality. So, what are your opening thoughts on it? Over to you, ma'am.
Well, interesting. I think with time we have changed. The times have changed us, and there's so much again in the mode where we call it robust. Why is it robust? Because we need to keep on adapting according to time and its changes, and we keep evolving like human beings do. So interestingly, I'm glad that we have become adaptive enough to know that there could be a possibility with hybrid teams. I mean, we've saved on so much consumption of fuel. We're saving some natural resources. We're welcoming nature back in their regions wherever they were always absent, etc., etc. I personally feel we've become more open to new avenues, and with that approach, we've become more empathetic towards the solutions that we can take out. And when talking about solutions, I mean, the best thing that we understood was one of our soft skills, and that had to do with
Yeah,
empathy. So, yes, absolutely. I
perfect.
think it's very encouraging to see how we've moved on to this other mode, which is also a possibility for our organizations to operate in. Ji.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, ma'am. And like you already said, that empathy actually has now become the most important element, especially when we are dealing with screens. I'll just very generically, I'll call it this. Despite the fact that, okay, fine, I'm looking at somebody, but again, that is a digital version. It's not the real version at all. And as far as psychology says, if I may add, that the human to human connection in physical presence can never be actually replaced at all. And this brings in a lot of implications too. This
True.
brings in a lot of implications because if certainly am I sitting with a friend, actually sitting with a friend, that has a different impact on me, on my mental state, as far as if I'm having a communication over a live session, or even for that matter, even we are sending text messages, exchanging text messages over some platform like WhatsApp or emails. So we'll be walk. I hope these slides, when we just get them on, we'll be walking through all these details and how it is affecting us and how it is affecting for both. Like for positives and less positives, I would say I won't be using the word negative, although I did objectively. But yeah, there are positives and less positive is because when we are going in one direction, that is just up ahead. So we have to rarely care about the negatives. We have to go and cater the less positives for sure. So first things first, how exactly empathy turned out to be a crucial element in a virtual setting for a manager who's leading a team with people working with them under the same roof and people working for them thousands of kilometers away, and how those who are actually working from such a distance, and there is no human to human connection at all, the one that we have actually developed upon over millennia probably, and it's a completely different ballgame. So how exactly we can somehow make up for that human to human connection when it comes to hybrid teams management as a manager?
Sana, I'd like to build upon something very interesting taking on from your conversation. So you talked about how when we shifted to online teams, and of course there were some working on ground and some were allowed to work on ground. The rest were supposed to be not present. A certain percentage was allowed to be working together, but then again you had that distance. Honestly speaking, that made the entire world realize one thing. I think distance is a relative term, and that's something that we've realized. So a normal person sitting in the same city now is having a conversation with a person over in the internet, which means a tool that have been provided for communication. Turns out that long distance relationships were persistent during the pandemic entirely. So we're
Right.
talking about relationships being built and sustained over a connection. And no matter you were in the same city, that presence did not feel real because you were definitely miles apart. And in that regard, like I said, it's a relative term. Now you realize, okay, fine, this is how people operate in a long distance relationship. So companies came to a halt thinking on the fact this is going to be now critical and then challenging as well. Thinking, I once in another session I also mentioned how women sitting together starting their day in a bank produced or proved to be more productive. Um, Otherwise, working from homes from different silos, So that is an aspect that we have to really look into. So yes, empathy entered the approach right when you realize the importance of being with each other. And like I always say, sympathy and empathy have a very fine line in between. Your element of involvement is what decides it's empathy or your sympathy. And
Exactly right.
something to manage teams with is always there when you let the other person know I'm there for you. I realize what you're going through, and trust me, that's exactly what I'm doing. Let me give you a solution. That's what empathy is. So while managing teams, this is what came to us as the best solution, realizing the other person's problem. And then again, you have to have that listening ear and everything. And I think we'll discuss all that in the presentation coming along.
But
Ji.
definitely right, ma'am. So we'll be proceeding further with the presentation as well. But again, like I said, that somebody who's working from home,
Yes.
we are not actually built this way. Not built this way, negotiating with all the challenges. Because I remember that I was having a meeting online way back in 2020, a very important meeting, and someone just barged in to let me know that the lunch is ready and you got to come. See, and there were like four or five people, including myself, and we all started laughing. We all started laughing, and I was a bit shocked initially, but thankfully it was handled well. But the best part was everybody else who was part of that whole meeting, they took it very lightly. So they converted that instance into those humorous chunks that lighten up the meetings and get everybody's interest back to or focus back to actual thing. Because sometimes during meetings or while working, we need to have these very little episodes of humor exchanged among the
True.
members.
That this becomes so comforting actually. You sort of say,
Exactly.
you sort of own up to each other. Absolutely.
Exactly
But you
right.
know what? There have been babies coming in, there have been pets coming in, so you
Yeah.
that's not a difference really. You know.
Exactly right, Ma. So, proceeding further with the importance of empathy in remote work specifically, how
Ji.
exactly four of these elements affect us and why it is so important?
So I'd like to, go through them given that they are very brief and easy to understand. There are three
Yeah.
of them, and we're
Yeah.
talking about building trust. And I'd like to take it up exactly from where you started.
Yeah.
Uh, that little incident that you had at home, that sort of built your trust with the team, right? They can own up to
Exactly
you,
right.
they can take
Yeah.
ownership. This is where we are building trust amongst each other, that okay, fine, we understand, we take your back, you take ours, and then we're there for each other as a support system. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's something that sort of helps people work together. So that's one for sure. Then there is fostering connection.
Yeah.
That's when you sort of show empathy by helping team members feel connected, even when they're working not with each other
Yeah.
physically. Simple as that. So when you're
Yeah.
staying away, you're sort of encouraging a behavior in which connections are respected and taken care of and supported by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Increasing productivity can be an issue, yes. As much as empathy can increase motivation and job satisfaction, of course, leading to more and more productive teams eventually. But then
Yeah.
again, this will go down the drain unless your leaders and your people around you are not supportive. So हम एक तरह के डिप्रेशन में भी चले जाते हैं ना. That's like a human factor, like you mentioned. We're not used to this. We're
Sure.
not built for this. We're social animals, right? So we want to meet each other. We want to be conversing with each other. Change and exchange of ideas is very, very healthy for us. But still, productivity has to come from within, and that has to come when you're motivated. So somewhere
Right.
empathy plays a very major role in increasing the productivity as well. Yeah.
Absolutely right now. And when it comes to the connection between building the trust, because you know what, okay, building trust when somebody is physically available and we can have a word, we can exchange a couple of jokes. If I just feel
True.
like that one of the team member is feeling down, and we actually know the challenges we have at our workplace in our workplace settings. But when it comes to working from home, many of the challenges were sort of a novel idea, novel practice for everyone else. You know, the pet walking in, and there is a
True.
disturbance going on. All the times you have a threat that somebody is going to barge in right now,
Yeah, true.
or somebody is going to give this very hard knock. What are you doing in there? Why are you not coming out? Or the internet connection may just dish me right now. How I'm going to react to it, and how exactly everything that we were not even aware of that could ever happen. So with the passage of time, the challenges are surfacing, and this element to accept these challenges, these settings, these change of behaviors, this change of mindset for somebody who's working from home, and acknowledging that, I reckon this is what I believe, that you just to sum up what you just expressed, the insights that you shared, that building trust could be a very important element in this context. We can tell them, okay, if anything goes wrong, no problem at all. It's a normal practice for everyone. All right. And when it comes to fostering connection, we have to express it. But right now, I
Absolutely.
have to express it through emojis, maybe.
Very right.
You
Very right.
see, because again, like I said, the human to human connection is not there, and that definitely results in increasing productivity. Proceeding further, I would request your further insights on, if you could just walk us through certain tools and technologies for effective collaboration, and also if you could emphasize on this word collaboration in a virtual setting.
So interesting conversation today, and I was just going to comment also that leading जहाँ पे हम communication और trust की बात करें. So like I said, we're social animals, right? So we have a very innate instinct of responding to gestures and cues, and that we pick up
Sure.
while we meet each other. Now that gets
Right.
lost. The essence of conversation sometimes gets lost while you're texting. It doesn't really
Yeah.
convey the emotion sometimes. Some people are not that expressive. But when you
Right.
meet them in person, you sort of can read them. That ability is sort of lost on over these conversations. On a lighter note, we have had court trials happening with filters with animal shapes
Exactly.
in front of them. That was one funny part. I mean, we've had some humorous time alongside too, but then that's how it rolls. I mean, we're supposed to sort of own up to that environment and then build the trust and foster our communication accordingly. So बात हो रही थी collaboration की, लेकिन by the end of the day you're supposed to meet each other, teams work together,
True.
and that's how it is. किसी ने बड़ी अच्छी बात की कि जी, if you want to observe how collaboration works, how team works together, look at F at your F1 tracks when these racing cars go around. Not when they're
Yes.
racing, but when the team comes together to change the tires of that particular racing car. It is
Right.
so speedy, nobody interferes with each other, but they're also well timed and in cohesion they work together that the work gets done and delivered. And these tools that are available in the market is what is going to make it effective. So, Sanan, you and
Right.
me today sitting over a certain platform, speaking to each other, is our communication. We are
Right.
managing this project together, and this is how we are going to have our conversation made and be talking about it as well. Then there comes a time that there has to be information sharing that you're currently doing. So you're sharing this information. We're doing everything
Right.
real time. Tools assist
Right.
us. But then again, how are we going to utilize them to their best abilities to make our collaboration effective? Is that what is going to matter? And
Perfectly right.
eventually, I mean, technology has just taken its fleet up the sky. I mean, we always say sky's the limit. It isn't anymore. There have been footsteps over moon. We are traversing the universe. There is no way we are limited to the sky anymore. And trust me, like
Sure.
we've always discussed, whenever there are weaknesses, challenges, that's where the opportunity enters. So we saw a huge market boom with your technological advancements, which talks about
Perfect.
file sharing. You know, you have cloud-based solutions for them. There are platforms where you can manage project together. I mean, these became a hit. Zoom became a hit. There were so many products that actually launched, and so many products delivered as per their protocol. So, you know, this is all about building that communication where things get across and you get the work done. The immediate
Perfect.
and the later on goal has to be same to reach your particular aim, and that's what gets done effectively once collaboration is unhindered. And that happened. I mean, there's so many technological tools and all. Would you like to add something to that?
I think it's already very well explained, very insightful, in fact, like always. And if I may just add a couple of things, technology has this thing, it supersedes itself. I would rather say
True.
technology is cannibalist in nature. The moment we invent something, it's not just that particular thing, there are incremental changes taking place. Just like
Very
that,
right.
when somebody invented the remote controls, the importance of batteries was at the peak. And then people started working on these incremental technologies, that how exactly can we make the batteries better, smaller, so that the size of the remote controls could get smaller. And now it comes that we only have to give it a touch of our finger to make things move. And then augmented reality and artificial intelligence, and also it has also jumped in. So this change, this shift from a physical setting to a virtual setting, actually instigated a lot of what I would say uh, other technologies in effect. That people started working on these things. Different apps came on. Nobody knew about Zoom, by the way. Very few. Zoom had
As
already,
much.
probably what, 5% or something. We remember that there was something called Skype. It still is there. That was the only mode of having conversations online. But it was for primarily limited to the conversations that people would have if they cannot, if there is no means that they could be together and under the same roof. Like I
True.
remember that way back in 2009, we used to undergo trainings by our UK client, and that was the only way out for us. Skype was only there, but with very limited options. Very limited options. You could just listen to them well, and there was no video conferencing and something like that. You can't just see them. See, so now with the passage of time, many breakthrough technologies have already been in place, but incremental technologies are also coming. New apps, the apps are now being upgraded. And on top of that, human machine, this machine called human being has already started upgrading itself. We'll talk
True.
about our eyes, the capability of our eyes. You see, I was having a word with somebody who was telling me, I'm just trying that my kids shouldn't watch these screens any much. But again, the point is, they are born with it. They are born with the screens in front of their eyes. And we
True.
can say to a certain extent that probably their eyes have now already developed that extra mileage, that extra ability to pave through these screens because they're born with it. We had to adapt.
True. The muscles
So,
are tuned. Simple as that. That's how it works.
yeah.
Absolutely right. I concur. Absolutely agree.
Definitely. So, just sound it up for you for this particular topic, ma'am. Let's move to the next topic in this context. And I should again, request and motivate our viewers. Please keep on coming with your views, with your inputs, with a comment section. Like, thank you very much, Salman, Ahmed, for your comment. Salman is of the view that an old saying, "Tools do matter only if in the hands of a competent person." But definitely right. Ma'am, would you like to comment on it to further expand?
I
Thank you very
I
much,
could
Salman.
not agree any any further than this. This is so true, 100%. um, tools in the wrong hands actually are destructive. It's like an atomic bomb. Use the technology for the right direction, fine, maintain world peace. Don't use it in the right direction, end up with Russia and Ukraine fighting together. So you just never
Perfect.
know what happens, right? So I don't want to trigger a conversation here though, but
Right.
absolutely very well said. Ji.
Perfect, ma'am. So if we just have a look at these strategies to cultivate a culture of empathy, and that too
Ji.
in a virtual setting, you know, again, like I would said, it's screen to screen. Everybody's looking at their screens. There is no other thing. I can't just probably. I would not meet that person in entire of my life, entirety of my life at all. We won't be sitting together, actually sharing a cup of coffee, but we may be working with each other for a decade or more. You see, so how exactly can we start cultivating this culture of empathy in a virtual
Ji.
setting for sure?
Absolutely. So Nan, we can always agree talking about one thing. Um, Human beings love being in comfort zone. We like being comfortable. We like being accustomed to what we are. We like sometimes we'll take a challenge up and maybe want to switch to another organization per se, but then that we'll
Yeah.
do when we're sure about making that move for the right reasons. We want to be comfortable. Again, comfort comes in. It's comfortable for me to make this change because it gets me more money or maybe a better position, etc., etc.
Right, ma'am.
So when technology came in, how do you really be that comfortable with that particular thing which is now being a part of your life as a normal routine, which means perhaps a tool or a platform on which we are now going to be talking about. We're not going to be meeting each other every day, but we're definitely discussing our issues. We're definitely collaborating. We're discussing progress of our tasks. That we are doing here. How do we become comfortable with that? So number one, like I said, me coming on screen and a lot of people that I worked with are not really comfortable coming on screen. You'll be amazed to know I don't like coming on camera. But then that would we had no choice. I had to lead by example. So there are shy people in my they're introverts, they're shy people, they're amazing at their work, but why make them uncomfortable? But then again, you need them to be productive and actually bring this change in them because that's a requirement. You need to see what they're talking about. It becomes more homely. So कुछ चीजें होती हैं हम avoid तो करते हैं because हम uncomfortable होते हैं, but they are required to make it all effective, right? So to cultivate
Right,
a
so
thing, you have to normalize them so that it becomes comfortable for everybody. And for that particular reason, you lead by example. So you come on camera
100%.
first, you make it happening, you make the thing that
Perfect.
nobody misses it. And I'm sure things and people in your
Perfect.
team follows. Number one. Number two, screens can be boring. Students don't like coming on screens. I sometimes feel like getting too bored while I'm in a meeting because somebody just keeps saying things and I'm not really interested. So sometimes you lose track of what is happening and the essence is lost. Why go there? Well, for that purpose, you do some activities in between. So every time I have trained and I have taken the stage, I know for a fact my go-to strategy is to make sure they are active. And if they're not actively listening, there's no point in having
Yeah.
this meeting, right? There's no point in sitting here. How about you make
Rightly
it more
so.
productive, more constructive? You need engagement, and for that particular reason, there has to be activity. How do you do them? There
Perfect.
are millions and millions of activities. Do your crosswords together, do your sessions together, do your gaming sessions together. There's so much we could do, to just make
Rightly
sure
so.
everybody does something and does something. So that's one. That's another point that we could handle. Then again, there are mindful practices. Like I said, for understanding that this is now my new norm, you need to be mindful and you should have, let's just say, again, becoming comfortable with the zone. They're very relevant exercises that you could pull off with your team. I mean, you could do it all together. You'll all enjoy
Yeah.
doing it. I remember sitting in an HR session by my company, and it was a very well planned workshop by the HR GM. And I remember how she made us all close our eyes and put on some music and gave us a scenario and get there. It was really relaxing. It
Right,
was.
ma'am.
Once you get your team to sort of do the same over this particular channel, your remote teams feel they're connected, they feel and they understand, okay, fine, we are part of this community and we're doing the same activities, like I said, normalize it, make people
Yeah.
comfortable with this. So to get them to get accustomed to the new practice, you do the same over another tool now, over another platform now. And
Yeah.
for that, there are a few strategies we could really work with to cultivate a culture of empathy. You tell them we
Completely right.
understand what. do it together. Yeah.
Yeah. So, ma'am, there are a couple of strategies that you really talked about of you when we had a discussion about it. So, I would just be, sharing those strategies. If you could just walk our viewers through how these important strategies could be very helpful. So, I'm just sharing slide right now.
Hmm.
It's just working. One of the perks right now, because when we are working and I'm sharing something, so it just gives me a kind of a stressor very immediately that okay, I tried to share something and didn't work, and I've seen most of the people just breaking at that very moment. That okay, what to do with it? What should I do with it? And how should I do with it? You see, so we have shared it, and then how do I cope up with it? So you know what? If I'm empathetic enough and I'm just motivating the people that who are working with me, okay, no problem at all. There could be a technical issue, and we have to have that gap in mind that things can go slow or can get
True.
stuck. Internet is there, the machines are working, the machines may get overheated, or sometimes I don't know why, but I've seen that technology has this way out that once you need it the most, it just gets stuck. And I reckon everybody who's weighing it right now on the video right now can listen to me. They can bring that event or one incident, at least one incident, that when everything should have gone well, something stuck. Maybe a screen or maybe a file or anything that I was working on.
I agree. Absolutely. No matter how much you've prepared for it, something has to go wrong. And that
Yeah.
happens. Absolutely. Bilkul. Bilkul, I agree with you.
So now, if you could just simply walk us through, ma'am. I'll just keep on naming things. You can see on the screen, the viewers can see on the screen. One of the most important activities is emoji storytelling. I mean, assigning a team member to kick off a story using a single emoji. So, how do you think this can help us out, ma'am?
This is interesting, actually. So there are multiple ways to kick off a story from a single emoji. Somebody could
Yeah,
just start off telling how, for example, if it's a smiley emoji, people could just share an experience that they had, which was fun.
yeah,
People could just start talking about the barf emoji, maybe instances that made them uncomfortable and they just,
rightly so.
weren't happy about something, or they just felt yucky to them.
Yeah,
It could just be so much. It's actually interesting, instances where there's an emoji that is actually laughing so hard that there are tears coming out of its eyes. So that could actually be a very funny moment that they had as an encounter that was unplanned. I mean, there are so many ways to connect the dots, right? So
yeah,
I think that could be a few. जी.
perfect.
उसके अलावा
And
if you, जी जी please.
if you could just walk us through these, ma'am, if there are a few.
Sure, sure. So there's a virtual session that you could hold, in which you could just play the guess who game. It is
Yeah,
interesting to start with those. It's like a dumb charade that you play, but you play it wisely in the corporate circle that you can of course do it. It could be about
sure,
personalities. It could just be about anybody at all. That's something that could sort of kick off a good conversation of team building as well.
rightly so.
You could also have a virtual trivia night where team members can test their knowledge on various subjects. So it just could
Yeah,
be a quizzing session. And I believe I've had them with my team, and they really enjoy it when they actually work in teams. They come up with an answer, they collaborate together, they give those answers out, and then by the end of the day, there is a good laugh. They are winning teams. It's all fun
perfect.
and games. And
Yeah,
there are virtual escape rooms as well. You can challenge your team's problem solving skills by participating in a virtual escape room. So maybe you could
right,
just give them a task or a certain agenda on which they can individually work, but in a group in escape rooms, अक्सर हम इनको breakout rooms भी कहते हैं. So that
sure.
becomes an interesting way to also engage your people. So long story short, you tell them virtually we are available. I mean, I heard somebody held a concert online and that was so
Yeah,
engaging. Everybody was there, they were all participated. So yes, that's
perfect.
the link through which we got this. So yeah.
Rightly so. So these are the strategies that any manager can actually just, but when you feel like that the fun is getting out of it and everybody's getting a bit struggled, and you can just look at the faces, but definitely you can't just, you can just keep on guessing about it. But of course,
True.
these are these, because if we are working on this platform, that all the solutions are available. If you have softwares like GIRA working for you, if you have softwares like Zoom or Teams meeting for you to have a conference call, you do have softwares like these available where you can get your teams engaged, and either that could be storytelling, just help them out to get their focus a little bit of a little away from the actual thing for maybe like 5-10 minutes, and then getting back to the focus, all refreshed, all fine, all good. So that could also work. So thank you very much for these suggestions, Ma. But we have to conclude a little in a short while now. So if we could have some concluding remarks regarding it.
Uh, sure, why not? So Anand, when we talk about understanding empathetic approaches, they are very crucial to managing hybrid teams effectively, and
Yeah,
of course to cultivate a very successful remote working situation. So by
yeah,
using the strategies and tools that we've discussed, the best practices that we talked about, anybody can lead their team with empathy and productivity.
right,
So all you have to do is set clear empathy goals for yourself and your team. You have to implement the technology tools that foster empathy and communication. That should
perfect,
never ever break. You should encourage your team building and mindfulness practices so that the entire situation of being in a remote situation is normalized and people feel comfortable. When they're comfortable, they work well. Communicate frequently, and of course, celebrate your team's successes. The more appreciation you give them, the more motivation comes in, and then there's a lot of constructivism in the entire system. So I think
perfect,
that's something that I could actually give you as a conclusion and an action plan kind of a thing. G.
perfect. You're right, Ma. So I think, ma'am, we can just keep on talking about it again and again. But like we already said, these sessions are basically just to give a mindset that how exactly we can offer solutions, tailored solutions to our clients. If they're interested, and definitely we can work out. We can have a complete session, even if you want us to do it virtually. Yes, we can do that. Even if it is about how to actually conduct a virtual session, we definitely can work on it. And you know what, we are focusing more on behavioral psychology when it comes to organizations. And even if it is virtual settings, this is what we have been targeting today. So thank you very much, ma'am, for all the insights as usual. A lot of takeaways for me personally, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of takeaways for our viewers as well. But viewers, I have a request that if you seriously want us to, address a particular topic, you're more than welcome to just leave a comment, and definitely we can conduct a session like this in the upcoming session. Of course, we'll keep on coming with these sessions. And if you're watching it later, feel free to leave a contact. And if you want us to get back to you with any solution that you're looking forward to, it will be an honor for us. We keep on doing so. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much, everyone. Thanks a lot, ma'am, and thanks a
Thank
lot
you,
for your
Jeet.
patience.
Thank you. Always,
Up and
always a
up.
pleasure. And I think we will be coming up with one of our Chat GPT assistant
Exactly,
workshop very soon. I'd really appreciate if people could make
exactly,
the most of it. It's like a new assistant and
definitely,
virtual assistant you could have for life. Nobody should
perfect.
be missing out on that opportunity. And I think we have an upcoming workshop with training session with Happy Lack soon. So all the best to you, Sahnan, for that too. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks a lot, and thank you very much, everybody. Thanks a lot for your patience. We'll get back to you the next week with another topic of your choice. Thanks a lot. Signing off.
All